Mr. President, I come to the floor to talk about the pending business before the Senate, the unemployment insurance extension. And I rise today to say that it should come as a surprise to no one that we have a jobs crisis in America. To help fix it in the short term, we need to extend unemployment insurance benefits to help families who are suffering through the worst job market in many years, not obstruct and stonewall to score political points. Now, I sometimes wonder whether my colleagues understand that people's lives are in the balance. It's not a time for political grandstanding, not a time to once again say no, no to everything, no to the people who need help. This is not a time for amendments about ACORN or E-Verify, amendments that have been offered and voted on the floor of the Senate time and time and time again. And it's nice that those people who offer them get their paychecks direct deposited every 2 weeks. This is not the time to offer them again after the job crisis this administration inherited. Unemployment in New Jersey is at 9.8%, just shy of a double-digit unemployment. And the experts tell us it will get worse before it gets better. This is not the time to keep saying no, especially when we have trying to come out of the policies of the last 8 years that brought us to these present economic circumstances. The policies of the last administration that favored the bottom line over the lives of people, Wall Street over Main Street, sent millions of jobs overseas, leaving us vulnerable to any economic downturn, let alone one so severe as the one we were left with. When the economy sheds 263,000 jobs in 1 month alone, it's a crisis. When 14.9 million Americans are unemployed and we know that there are only 3 million jobs available, it's not the time to say no. When over a third of all unemployed, more than 5 million Americans have been jobless for 6 months or longer, and 500,000 Americans will exhaust their unemployment benefits this month, 1.5 million by the end of the year, we have to say yes to extending unemployment benefits. You know, Mr. President, we could recite the numbers all day. We could hold up chart after chart showing state-by-state unemployment figures. But as the President knows from his own comments on the Senate floor, the numbers don't tell us what this is really all about. It's about people and their lives and their hopes and the look on their faces when the bill comes due, the fear that they could stand to lose everything. Everywhere I go, when I'm back home, someone comes up to me, and I see that look on their face. It's a look of panic. It's a look of anguish. They lost their job after the holidays. Their benefits are about to run out. They lost their health care. They're behind on their mortgage. Their husband or wife is working 2 part-time jobs to try to make up. The story of these troubled times is not in the numbers. It's in the faces of those families who are looking to us for help. Mr. President, the numbers are significant, but they're merely a snapshot frozen in time. The truth of joblessness in this country is an ever-changing story of men and women who are one check away from ruin, mothers and fathers who have struggled all their lives to make ends meet, had a good job for years, made a decent wage, then saw 8 years of government policies that favored Wall Street over Main Street. They watched their companies downsize for greater productivity, sent jobs overseas. They watched their friends laid off. They went to bed at night praying that they would not be next. And then they got the news. They were next. But they had hope because of the wisdom of Franklin Roosevelt, who on August 14th of 1935, 74 years ago, signed into law the Social Security Act, which included the first provisions for unemployment insurance. and the Republican opposition in his day called him a socialist, and they tried everything they could to stop the New Deal, notwithstanding an economy in depression. For FDR, the story was not in the numbers. It was in the faces of the people in grainy black and white photographs of bread lines and old women selling apples on street corners. Today, the faces of the unemployed are no different. Their need for help is the same, and our duty to provide it is the same. Mr. President, this is about them. It's about real people who maybe, just maybe, if we have the will and the wisdom to do what is obviously right sooner rather than later, we'll look across the kitchen table tonight knowing that they're able to hold on just a little longer. I know there are those who have bought into the notion that government is the problem for everything, that it can do nothing right and should stay out of just about everything, that the free market should be left to its own devices and everyone should fend for themselves without government oversight or involvement. Those are the same views that fought the New Deal. They fought against Social Security and Medicare and civil rights. They supported Reaganomics. They told us the government is the problem, and Wall Street knows best. I think history, especially recent history, has proven them wrong. Good, well-run, decent, honest government can be part of the solution, and this is one of those times when it's government's responsibility to act. Extending unemployment insurance is what we as responsible government leaders must do when there are those in the community who have no other option. This is not a time to say no. To delay voting on this bill is to turn our back on millions across this nation who are still unemployed and facing financial disaster. To look into their faces and say no is not who we are as a people or what we stand for as a nation. We are a community united by shared values and common concerns, not a nation of 300 million disconnected individuals. The plight of any one of us should be a concern to all of us. So, Mr. President, the federal government stepped in at the right time to help companies we determined were too big to fail, not for the sake of them failing, but for the sake of what they would do to our national economy. We said they were too big to fail. Well, I say the American people are too big to fail. And now we have to step in and help them. This is America. We don't get or let the situation get the best of us. We take it as an opportunity, as Franklin Roosevelt did, to renew the promise of this nation, to recommit ourselves to the concept and spirit of community, one nation, indivisible. Whether that means 20 more weeks of federal aid for those who still cannot find a job, those who wake up every day with the want ads in one hand and their resume in another, trying to figure out how they can match up and get that job, or providing incentives to homeowners to boost the economy, we always rise to the challenge. We have done it before, and we can do it again. This is our chance for each of us in this chamber to do what's right for every American who is looking to us for a little help and a little hope. It's not the time to say no again, Mr. President. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor and observe the absence of a quorum.